What do you do with a train station? That's really, most of it's not being used. Well, our next two guests had a vision, and they now have a story to tell. Here's Cameron Porteous and Charles Sharun.
I hear that train a-comin', it's rollin' around the bend.
Who wants to come near me? Okay.
I'm not afraid.
Okay, well, you should be. Okay. Well, we'll start with Cameron. I looked at these guys' biographies, and we could be here all night. We're not going to be.
Please.
But your biographer, Cameron, says you're a scenographer. I have no idea what that is. Tell us about it.
Well, it's a new terminology. It started in the 60s in Europe, in Czechoslovakia, by a designer by the name of Joseph Svoboda. He came up with new types of theater, which is basically theater using technology. And of course, the implication is choreography, in other words, choreographing scenery. So that's where the term scenography came from. But it's more than that. It actually is about single vision. The best scenographers I know of in this country are costume designers who can design costumes and scenery as a single vision working with the director. And that's basically why I've changed my term from designer to scenographer, because that's what I do.
I have no idea what you're talking about. What does it mean, scenery and costumes going together? I really don't understand.
Well, it is the concept of a production, whatever it is, the time frame, the location, and everything. The scenery. The scenery is basically what Svoboda was attempting to do, was to with the set, let's say, or with the scenery and how it moved with the production. It was people were seeing what words were not being said.
Gotcha.
In other words, that was basically the essence of it.
So what were some of the highlights of your career? I know you worked several places.
Well, like Denise, all the shows are pretty special. In fact, I dressed Denise on numerous occasions, darling, yes. I would have to say that I have two productions that stand out in my mind, and one was the cavalcade, Noel Coward's cavalcade of the Shaw Festival. It ran forever. There was over 200 costumes that were designed, and there were enough sets to keep things going for hours. So that's one. The other was Heath Lambert's and Marty Meriden in the Cyrano de Bergerac who did that. Yeah.
Great. Now, Charles, your resume isn't too shabby. Get closer to the mic a bit and tell us about it.
Well, I think, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're there.
Yeah, now we can.
Thank you. I'm always a little shy, so I'm just going to read it, and that way it won't take 20 minutes.
20 minutes? No.
No, it won't.
Okay.
Okay. Basically, I've been making art since I was about 8 years old, encouraged by my teachers. I grew up in Thunder Bay, and we of our generation either went west or east. I moved to Toronto and studied art at the Ontario College of Art, then UWO in London, Ontario, and finally received a BFA at what is now Concordia University in Montreal. Fascinating city, Montreal.
BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts.
That's it. Well, actually, it was an honors, but I won't go into that. I returned to London and continued in my studio to produce art, having yearly shows in the area. In order to pay for the rent, I had to work in many different professions. I think I've had 8 separate professions in my life. Most artists have to figure out how to make a living one way or the other. In order to pay the rent, I worked basically 6 months on, 6 months off. I moved back to Toronto after I did a teacher's degree, and I taught high school art because I was really fascinated with teaching, and I think it was one of the most interesting things I did. But like a lot of things, it changed. And I got involved in amateur theater with the Alumni Theater, which is a women's theater in Toronto that goes back over 100 years. Fascinating. I was encouraged again, and I decided to quit teaching, and I moved to Bristol, England. And I attended the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. I stayed another 2 years as a scenic painter at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre Royal. When I had to move back to Canada because my visa was up, I found work as an assistant scenic painter at the Canadian Opera Company. That was wonderful. That was just amazing. I also was designing and producing exhibits for a variety of clients. Metro Zoo is one of my repeat customers. I moved into being a scenic painter in films with the Film Union, IATSE. After 30 years, which is a long time, I finally was able to retire, and my wife Allison, who's also an artist, quite an amazing artist, we moved to St. Mary's in 2015, and we continue to do our talent, and it's keeping us alive and healthy.
Now, did you know him before you moved to St. Mary's?
I knew of him.
You knew of him. Well, how did you get together then and open up this station gallery?
Well, it really all started at one of the Wednesday morning men's breakfast situation. I joined that. It was Herman Vingerswald who asked me to come and join that. So I did, and I walked in one day and sat down, and there was Charles Sharun sitting beside me and Reed Needles, and they were talking to me about the railway station. Would I be interested in buying or renting a studio in there, that the spaces had come up. So we said, sure, I would, and went and had a look at it. So that's how I met Charles, and that's how we started. He was in one studio, I was in another, and then it developed from there. Was like, what can we do with the space? And we decided that maybe we'd try an art gallery. See if they're popular.
You've had some pretty impressive expositions there too. I think everyone has been exceptional.
Well, there have been, the variety of stuff that's been put out there is quite interesting, but Cameron's primarily the curator, and he's basically the person that developed it. I moved out of the studio about 2 years ago, but he's pulls me in every time he needs to have the place repainted or hung.
Yeah. Well, my house needs painting. Can I?
Sure,
okay,
sure.
Great.
If you can afford me, I'd love
Well,
to.
no, that's the problem, I think.
Can you answer the question?
What was the question?
The question is,
Can you afford him?
Can I afford him? No, I can't. I know I can't. You have to tailor your exhibitions to the space, though. It's a bit limited.
Yeah. At first it was very challenging, and I had heard stories that other people had looked at it as an exhibition site, and it was impossible due to the architecture of the building. Plus the fact that the gallery or the station is a heritage space, you know, and you don't muck about with that stuff. So I've been doing exhibitions in Europe and in Canada for years, for theater exhibitions, so I had a pretty good idea what to do, which is do floating walls, in other words, standalone gallery. And that's what we ended up doing to start with. And we started small, although we did too many exhibitions the first year. We did 12, and that damn near killed us.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right now you got character sketches by Christina Paduvia.
Yeah.
And how'd you get that?
Well,
Good story.
yeah, good. Well, Christina is an old friend of mine. I've known her for years. When I was head of design at the Shaw Festival, which I had for many decades there, I hired her to come and do a show at the Royal George Theatre, and that's how I got to know her. And she is a phenomenal designer, but she would never exhibit. I tried to take her to Prague when I curated the Canadian exhibition in the Czech Republic, and she wouldn't go. She wouldn't do it. And when I did the World Stage exhibition in Toronto, she would not exhibit. So this time I said to her, "You've got to exhibit." And she said no. So her husband and I ganged up on her. And she said, "I will only do it if I can exhibit the production, because not just the drawing." So we said, fine. And what came out of it was just phenomenal.
It is.
Phenomenal.
If you haven't been there, you really got to go there. When can you go to the gallery?
You can go anytime except Monday, and we're open from 11 until 4:30, and we're now Tuesday till Sunday in the summer. So you've got to go quickly, because we are holding the exhibition over for 1 week. So I haven't got my dates on me, but it's the 18th. Yeah, the 18th.
And you have some future ones exhibit coming up.
Yeah. Well, we have our dear friend Peter Rice. Peter Allen Rice is coming in with his exhibition, which is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And the posters are done. I've got some cards and things here to hand out to people if they want.
And they can get them after the show if they want.
Yeah, I pick them up.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm not going to run around now.
If you want to support the gallery, what are some ways people can do it financially and also with help?
Well, with help is great. That's one of the biggest problems. Is I started a thing called the Friend of the Gallery, and there's a couple of friends who are here actually in this group tonight, and they're very important to help out. Manning the gallery for those hours, the security, for example, of the gallery for those hours means that I don't get a day off ever. So now with the Friends of the Gallery coming on board, I can get a day off here and there. But I have to admit one thing, and that is that to work at the station with the Via Rail assistants there, the town's Via Rail girls and boys, is wonderful. I call it a hand-in-glove situation. It could not be a better deal. And the Via attendants have been so supportive, incredibly supportive, and have very much, they changed their badge from the town Via to the friend of the gallery. And they're wonderful.
I'd just like to add one other very important factor. The town of St. Mary's has given a grant to the gallery,
Right.
which supplies all of the costs, almost all of the costs. So Cameron has, and the Friends of the Gallery have a budget, and it was the town who initially, I think there were members in the council who weren't that interested in it, but because of trying to save the station, so the trains keep coming through, they wanted something to be there. And now that with the gallery, it's a big draw. I mean, we had over 120 people at the opening for Christine's show.
Wonderful.
And now the town gives a regular grant, and they're giving us the support.
The one thing to bring up is the fact that on our first year of operation, we had about 1,400 signatures in the guest book. And that's the people who signed. I'm at, today, I just totaled up before we came down here, 1,290 signatures. I'll hit 1,300, and we're not even halfway through.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for dropping in, and if you haven't been to the Station Gallery, please drop in soon for this exposition. It's closing soon, but also the ones in the future. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very,
Okay.
very much.